Hey guys, Tarke Cat, and now we're going to be looking at the rogue artifacts and talent breakdown, and then we'll finish up looking at the artifacts themselves. So let's just get into it. Still a bit coffee, bear with me. Assassination. Now, we're noticing a very big trend as we do these videos, lots of boring with one or two interesting artifact nodes. Hopefully Blizzard improves with this as time, because frankly you don't just need flat stuff, it is boring. So, saying that, end venom damage increased by flat percent. Mutilate damage flat percent. Now, an interesting one. Crimson Vial restores an additional X% of your maximum health over 1 second. So this is basically a new move you're getting. We can look into that later in the skill tree, and it's just a heal. So cool. Damage taken reduced. It seems every single class that we've looked at has a flat damage reduction, which again raises the question, why bother having it if everyone has flat damage reduction? Just don't have it. Mutilate energy cost reduced by flat. It's better than just a DPS increase, so I prefer that. It changes the gameplay a little bit. It'll be interesting to pick up the talent. Flat rupture damage, increase the cooldown of Shadow Step. That's pretty interesting. Reduce the cooldown of Vendetta. Again, pretty interesting. Fan of Knives cause any targets hit with your deadly poison take X% of the remaining deadly poison damage instantly. Okay, that's quite interesting. It doesn't say there's like a chance, it just says it will do it. So you might start seeing gameplay where if you need to finish off ads, you start using Fan to proc your poison, then you reapply. Potentially you would have to see the numbers on it, but that might maybe turn into a gameplay option for 5-mans where you're chain applying and then burning your deadly poison. We don't know. Activating Vendetta fills all of your energy. That's really powerful, especially since we're reducing the cooldown of it as well. When you use Shadow Step, the cooldown of Sprint is reset. Ooh. Amazing in 5-mans and raiding. That is going to cause so many headaches in PvP. But yeah, okay. Well, I guess, depending on if Burst of Speed is still a thing, that will cause headaches. If Burst of Speed still exists, I guess it doesn't really matter. Offensive finishing moves increase poison damage you deal to the target by X for until cancelled. Okay, so it says until cancelled, so we'll have to see how that plays out. I'm assuming there is some kind of drawback to that, otherwise you would never cancel it. Or it's just a buff which stacks up. We don't quite know yet. When you declare your Vendetta target, an image of Garona half-Orcan will manifest itself and barrage the target with poison daggers. Pretty cool. It's an interesting visual. I'm not quite sure how the Alliance guys will feel about having Garona. I mean, I know this is meant to be like her weapons, so it kind of makes sense lore-wise, but I'm sure that'll piss some people off. When you envenom a target, you have a chance to smash a giant vial of poison at the target's location, creating a pool of acidic death that deals X damage to all enemies with it. That's really cool. I really like that. I'd be interested to see what the chance of it is. And yeah, big fan. That just sounds cool. When you mutilate a target, the shadow essence of Gul'dan has a chance to lash out of your daggers and latch onto your target, dealing X damage and healing you for that amount every 5 seconds for until cancelled. Again, this cancelled thing is coming up. So we'll have to see what exactly that means, but initially, again, pretty cool. Rupture is a chance to inflict your target with the blood of enemies slain by your daggers for until cancelled. While the target has infected blood, X% of all damage you deal will be stored up and unleashed when the blood corruption ends. Let's read that one more. Rupture is a chance to infect your target with the blood of enemies slain by your daggers. Okay. For until cancelled. We'll ignore that last bit. While the target has infected blood, X% of all damage you deal will be stored up and unleashed. So it will work kind of similar to Soul Capacitor, the trinket, I'm assuming. So like you get the proc, you store up all of your damage, it then unleashes big damages. Sounds cool. I like how most of the interesting ones are genuinely quite interesting and have gameplay options to them rather than just, oh, you're slightly more efficient. Most of the ones we've been seeing from other classes, just the interesting ones are you are more efficient, your, cooldown lasts slightly longer. Whereas these sort of ones are, a new mechanic. Like, that is a new mechanic. It's not interesting, but it's new. And then these whole Garona half-Orcan, giant vials smashing, like, sounds cool. The only thing which worries me a bit is the chances of these to proc. The Garona is force, but both of these are chance, and in a raid encounter, yes, this will even out over prolonged sustained fights. But if you have an ad which has to die instantly and you're just not getting your procs, you're going to feel bad. And in PvP, having procs this powerful, it's kind of sketchy because you might get chained back-to-back procs and you one-shot that dude and then you don't get any. So I'm not quite sure how you go about balancing that. And you will have to see what the numbers work out to be, yeah? Fan so far. Still, get rid of these boring ones, please. Alright, so let's see how the talents interact with the artifact, and hopefully we can see some cross synergy. The mage has some really good cross design going on. Hopefully this continues in with the rogue. So, Master Poisoner. Increase the damage done by your poisons by 10% and their non-damaging effects by 20%. Pretty standard, completely passive, might be quite good for PvP because the non-damaging effects, I'm assuming that increases stuff like the slows and the stuns from like Paralytic Poison or something. It's a flat passive, good for people who don't want to manage something. Elaborate Planning. Your finishing moves grant 20% increased damage done for 4 seconds. Okay, so this is something you have to plan somewhat into your rotation, where you would probably pull up energy to full, use your finisher, then, you know, chain a few mutilates in. It would require some planning. I wouldn't really call it elaborate planning. But, you know, there's some gameplay to it, and, you know, you can see how, what they like to do with the first row of talents, it seems, for everything else we've looked at, is you have one sort of beginner-friendly option, one intermediate, and then I'm hoping one advanced. So let's see if we do get the advanced one. Hemorrhage, 30 energy, repercussion wound at the target, instantly dealing 91% of physical damage, increasing your bleed damage on the target by 30% for 20 seconds. Award 1 combo point. So basically, you have the options of a just passive DPS increase, a situational buff, and then a debuff that you need to keep active on the target. So you can sort of see how you've got 3 different play styles to choose from. Hopefully, they don't math out that one is just incredibly better than the others, because, for example, let's say that this is the one which maths out to be way better. People generally don't like keeping debuffs up. I know rogues already have to keep up a lot of like little buffs and stuff, so maybe not so much for rogue players. But in general, where we've had debuffs you've had to keep up, people have been annoyed by it and it's been removed from the game. A good example is Inquisition for Paladins. Like, that was the thing for Rets, it got removed because people didn't like it. They're now adding extra debuffs and stuff into Rogue. They removed debuffs from Monk because people didn't like it in Monk. I don't know. But yeah, decent design, first tier, 3 clear gameplay options, so that's good. Night Stalker. While stealth, you move 20% faster and your abilities deal 50% more damage. Okay, so nothing's changed that much. Your abilities requiring stealth can still be used for 3 seconds after stealth breaks. Interesting. Again, we're getting a shorter cooldown on Vanish. No, just Vendetta, sorry, just Vendetta. Trying to work out what the rotation would look like for that. Yeah. Seems okay. Abilities constitute less energy while you're in stealth. I haven't played a rogue that recently. I played one at the start of WoD, so bit sketchy on which one of these would just be better. I'm assuming it's between these two. It depends. If you go for like a full energy build, like just stacking as much energy as you can, using stuff like Vendome Rush, then Shadow Focus might be better because then you have a larger opening rotation. Assuming like if you gain an extra 1 mutilate from picking this, then that might be really good, right? If your rotation turns out to be just like spam ambush every time you stealth, I'm not too sure about this tier, to be honest. But, you know, at least they're different. They're keeping a stealth-focused tier. Yeah, I would have to get someone to do the math who knows Rogue a little bit better. But they seem okay. You may now have a maximum of 6 combo points, and your finishing moves now consume up to 6 combo points. Okay. Anticipation, increase the maximum number of combo points by 3. Finishers still consume a maximum of 5. Vigor, increase your maximum energy by 50 and your base energy regeneration by 10%. Okay, so that's kind of interesting. Does that still increase energy? That just increases energy regeneration. Okay. Which, see, a lot of it will again depend on what sort of playstyle you've gone for. So if you're going for something kind of like this, when you start stacking energy, it becomes really powerful. So very briefly, when I was playing my rogue, I was only playing it in PvP. I was actually playing Assassination for the first patch, and I was a gnome, and gnomes' passive is they have more energy, and I went for all of the talents which increased my energy, and I had something stupid like 164 energy, and I could chain mutilates all day in my opener, and then I would re-stealth, reopen, and it was just dirty. So you can already sort of see where those would come into. These two are probably more efficient. That's kind of like a niche kind of thing, but for like sustained fights, you'd probably rather have something like this. Especially if you have like combo points proccing off things. Let's just see if the new mastery's changed. No. That was a 30-second cooldown, an alchemical concoction that instantly heals you for 30%. Okay, so that's an instant heal plus the passive over what, just 1 second? Okay, so it seems kind of odd. But that's really powerful. Having a... It'll be at least 30, let's call it 35%. Let's say it's an initial 5% over 1 second. Odd, but anyway. Say a 35% heal on a 30-second cooldown for a DPS. That seems really powerful to me. Like, really, really powerful. I'd be... Yes, okay, it requires energy. Is recuperate staying? Maybe they've... What they've done is they've gotten rid of recuperate and they've put that in instead. Again, it's mostly a PvP thing because you don't really need it. Yeah, okay, so what they've done is they've removed recuperate and they've thrown that in. I kind of like that. It's slightly more thematic. I would rather have an instant heal anyway rather than a hot. Yeah, no, I like that. Right. Leeching Poison. Coat your weapon with a non-lethal poison that lasts 1 hour, granting 10% leech. It would stack with that, which would make it more efficient. Elusiveness. Feint also reduces the damage you take by 30% for 5 seconds. Cheat death. Fatal attacks instead reduced to 7% of your maximum health for 3 seconds, or after you take 85% reduced damage. Can't trigger more than once per 2 minutes. So here we can see quite clearly, again, this 3 different styles of play thing coming in. If you just want passive leech, you want a solo old rage, you just want to like not have to worry about anything, just take this, no problem, you can ignore everything. You can take it with that to make it more effective if you wanted to. This is more sort of planned because, you know, you need to actually be like pressing feint, moving into your rotation. Really good for something like PvP. If you can keep feint up in certain cases, amazing. And then cheat death, if you don't really want to think about it, or you want to keep your slowing poison, for example, you can just take this, no problems, and you get a 2-minute cheat death. So yeah, pretty cool. Paralytic Poison. Coat your weapon with a non-lethal poison that lasts for 1 hour, causes 10% increased duration for your kidney and cheap shot. Wow, they've changed that quite a lot. It used to be pretty overpowered. The old variation of it was you applied debuff when it stacked up to 5 times. You stunned. It was like a really horrible little mechanic. I don't think people would run that. That seems really bad. I don't know. Each time you deal bleed damage, you have 15% chance to reset the cooldown on Garrote, but Garrote silence only lasts 1 second. I mean, just from a PvP point of view, yes, okay, this is for casting or anti-healer, whereas that, you know, would be good versus full melee comps, but, you know, generally people run 1 healer unless it's triple DPS. See, what they've done is they've gone for like 2 CC options. They were doing this with the mage and it really annoyed me, and then they've gone for a DPS option. Your kidney shot also causes the target to bleed for 120, so that's quite a lot per combo point over 12 seconds. That's a lot of damage. If you're using deeper stratagem, you've got 6 combo points, 6 times 124. Like, that's a lot of damage. Not a big fan of how they've done that. Even in PvP, because, you know, you're going to be using kidney shot in PvP, you're going to be going for that in 5-mans, for leveling, for whatever, where you happen to use kidney shot. You're just going to go for this because it's just better. Both of these don't really do that much. You would use that in heavy wizard comps where you have to have the silence, but yeah, not a fan how they've gone for a straight DPS option. Most people just go for the DPS option anyway because they like having the extra burst. Not a fan. Numbing Poison. Coat your weapon with 1 lethal poison that lasts for 1 hour. Each strike has a 20% chance of poisoning the enemy. increasing all damage taken from your abilities by 10%, stacking up to 5 times. Lasts for 12 seconds. Okay, so basically this is good if you can stick on a target for a long time. If you're having to do a lot of target swapping, then not very good, because it says that it poisons the enemy. So this is, it's like you have to stack up on one particular enemy. So for sustained single target fights, this might be good. Add heavy fights, not really, because you're going to have to keep rebuilding your stacks. Okay, pretty standard. Your finishing moves have a 20% chance per combo point to grant 1% haste for 20 seconds, stacking up to 25 times. Wow, that seems amazing. Especially, again, if you go for like a really energy heavy spec, because that's just loads of extra regen. 20% chance. It lasts for 20 seconds, so it's going to be stacking up. As long as you're in combat, you will be gaining stacks. Even if you get like really bad RNG, you will get one. Yeah, no, that just seems pretty insane. You'd have to do the math between which one of those is, but like that's just going to be good for everything, whereas this is going to be good for single target scenarios. Each time you deal bleed damage, the effect has a 30% chance to spread to additional nearby target. That's good on like really heavy AoE, but the problem with... Okay, so for this talent to be good, you need loads and loads of mobs, yeah? Or you're doing 5-mans, and so you either want to be like in a 5-man scenario where there's always loads of mobs and you're always reapplying your bleeds, yeah? Or you want to be in a raid scenario with loads of ads. Raid scenarios which have loads of ads, the ads usually die quickly, because if you've got hundreds of ads, they can't be that strong. So a good example would be like Cormoc Hands. Lots of ads, not that strong. Spreading a bleed to other targets isn't that good, because it's a damage over time effect, if that makes sense. So I only really see this being good in 5-mans. Again, like in a 5-man, aside from the bosses, the mobs don't live that long. So this wouldn't be very good, obviously, but that would be quite good. But then surely this would just be better, because this is always helpful. So I'm not sure. You'd have to see how many times this has to spread for it to be good, and how long the mob has to be alive for it to be effective. But my gut reaction is that you just pick between these two in nearly every scenario. Because, again, both these are damage increases. That just spreads a bleed. And spreading a bleed is good. But is it better than giving, like, 25% haste? Or 50% damage on a single target? I don't think so. So, I don't know. Vendome Rush. Increase your energy regeneration rate by 5% for every enemy you've poisoned, up to 3. Basically, 15% more energy regen if you have 3 poison targets. Hasn't really changed much. Mark your target, instantly drawing 5 combo points. Coordinate reset, target dies within 1 minute. Again, hasn't changed. Really fun ability. Again, I kind of like how you have the different levels of planning coming in. Death from above, I don't believe that's changed, unless they've changed the scaling on it, but I believe that's the same as it was before. Yeah, so it hasn't changed, as far as I'm aware. One thing I like about this is, again, 3 different playstyles. So you've got a purely passive, but it's a passive which you need to manage. You need to be able to constantly be reapplying your poisons for it to be effective, which I like. You have this, which really rewards clever gameplay. So for example, if you're running 5-mans, chain popping this on every single pack 4 or 5 times is amazing. Certain ad fights where you can be constantly, resetting the cooldown all day, every day. Hellfire Assault springs to mind. Zul'Horak springs to mind. Cormoc, no, probably not. But, you get the idea. And then this, you have to weave into your rotation. It's just a really cool move. Yeah, I like it. Good. So, hopefully the Outlaw, which is the new combat, and the sub-trees look different. Before we go into it, I'm going to guess that probably these 3, maybe even... I'm assuming these 4 trees won't change, except for, like, 1 point. That's just a guess going out there. But overall, it seems like quite an interesting tier. There aren't many really obviously better talents, if that was a bit of a wonky saying, but you get it. There aren't many which seem like incredibly binary, as we've seen with some of the other classes. So thus far, seems promising. Let's have a quick look at the weapons. Now, I've had a few people comment that the assassination weapons don't look very assassin-y. Like, they look quite brutal. And I can kind of understand where you're coming from. because, you know, you've got all these, like, prongs and stuff. But they look cool. I do like how for a lot of the skins, for, like, this section, you have vials and poisons. You can see it trickling down through the blade. That, I think, like, you can see it a little bit there. If you can imagine with the animations probably rotate around and these little things will fill up. And, yeah, I don't know. I think it kind of works. Like, some of these ones especially. Like, that's just, it's cool. You very much get the poisony vibe from it. I get the comments coming from, it seems more like a butcher's weapon. But it's cool, you know. Whatever happens, like, you get hit by this, it's going to mess you up, right? So, I'm pretty much a fan of all of these models, I think. So, yeah. Good job, art team. Well done. Although, maybe you haven't captured the true essence. So, let's jump down to combat, which is now Outlaw. We're basically pirates now, so hopefully we see some cool pirates coming through here. Greed. See already, you know, Fortune's Boon, Ghostly Shell, Gunslinger. You can sort of get a bit of it, but anyway. When you use Run Through on a target, a lot of the previous rogue abilities, quickly before we get into it, they've been renamed. They haven't changed, they've just got a new name, so be aware of that. So when you use Run Through on a target, the Greed of the Dread Blades, that's your artifact, will sometimes cause you to perform an additional attack to all enemies within X yards around you. Wow. Causing math damage that heals you for X% of your maximum health per target hit. That's cool. Now, we're going to be seeing a lot of heal effects coming in. The whole sort of, like, fantasy behind the Dread Blades they are these cursed pirate weapons which they have to have, you know, their bloodlust filled, otherwise they'll kill the wielder. So imagine lots of, like, health drain mechanics and health buff mechanics. Damage reduction reduced by flat percent, fun rate, reduce the cooldown of Adrenaline Rush by a few seconds. We don't know how many, but it seems decent. When you use Cloak of Shadows, the Dread Blades will heal you for X% of your maximum health for each effect immediately cleared, as well as any effects resisted during its duration. It's cool, it makes sense thematically. In PvP, people are going to hate Cloak more than they already hate Cloak, because now Cloak is going to be a remove debuffs and get a full heal, basically. So, not a big fan of that. Good for raiding, but, you know, PvP guys. Combat potency generates X additional energy, okay. Reduce the energy cost of your finishing moves by X. That's quite interesting, because that's going to change your rotation quite heavily. Pistol shot, as I said, you've got pistols now, has X% increased critical strike chance. Increase the damage of run through by X. Reduce the energy regeneration penalty of Blade Flurry. That's pretty powerful. Saber Slash is the new Sinister Strike. They've kept the SS thing, so, you know, there's that. While Riposte is active, all parried attacks generate a combo point. That's pretty powerful. When you successfully ambush a target, your next Saber Slash will be guaranteed to strike a second time. Very, very powerful. Especially if you can stack that buff, or if they still have the... You can use your stealth moves 3 seconds after you can stealth. There might be like a ambush, Saber Slash, ambush, Saber Slash rotation coming up. We don't know. Sprint automatically activates Feint. It's just cool, I guess. While Adrenaline Rush is active, all of your abilities recharge X% faster. That's pretty cool. Cat coming in, sorry. When you perform a second strike with Saber Slash, your next pistol shot will shoot a ball of shrapnel at the target, dealing greatly increased damage. That's cool. Hopefully it has a nice animation to it. Invoke the Curse of the Dreadblades, causing each Saber Slash to fill your combo points. However, the Dreadblades will consume X% of your remaining health when using a finishing move for the next until cancelled. So basically you turn it on, turn it off. Seems powerful. It depends how much of a consume. So is it like it takes 5% or 30% of your health, obviously. Seems pretty powerful. I'm not sure how I feel about the idea of rogues killing themselves trying to DPS harder. I'm sure that's going to annoy a few healers. But, you know, it's good theming. Seems pretty powerful. I'm just a bit worried about all these buffs they're doing to abilities like Cloak, which are already quite powerful, and now they're just making them more powerful. So, I don't know. Seem decent, though. Let's look at the talents. So, again, you see how it's gone to Outlaw? Because, again, that's what it is now. Ghostly Strike. 60 energy melee range. Strike an enemy with your cursed weapon, dealing 176% physical damage, awarding 1 combo point, come on cat, and causing your target to take 10% increased damage from your abilities for 15 seconds. Again, they're working in debuffs. We saw this with Assassination. I'm not sure if rogues need more debuffs, but, you know, it's a pretty good move. It's a lot of energy though, but whatever. Swordmaster passive. Saber Slash has an additional 15% chance to trigger a second instant free Saber Slash. So as we saw, you do it, it hits, there's a chance it hits again. This just increases that chance. Pretty good. Again, passive, something you need to manage, I hope. Free uses of pistol shot granted by Saber Slash now generate 1 additional combo point and deal 50% increased damage. Free uses. Sorry about cats going mental. So basically, when you Saber Slash, you have a chance of proccing your pistol shot, and then this just means that your pistol shot is more powerful. Not sure how I feel about this tier, because you've basically got an annoying little buff with a high energy cost. I wouldn't mind this so much if it had a smaller energy cost. I think it's the fact that it's 60 energy, because you want to be applying this at the start of the fight. But the start of the fight is about getting all of your buffs up and getting all of that stuff up, slice and dice, everything like that. So having to instantly dump all of your energy just to apply a debuff feels a bit bad to me. This is a very passive ability, so again, it's good that hopefully this is the least effective, and it'd probably go like least effective, middle effective, most effective. That would be the dream scenario, so it rewards the level of play required. But to be honest, I wouldn't really want to be keeping other debuffs, so personally I'd want to just be using this all day, every day. But we'll have to see how the numbers work out on that. Grappling Hook. 30-second cooldown. Launch a Grappling Hook and pull yourself to the target location. Cool. 25-yard range. So basically it's a 30-second charge with no minimum range. See, it's interesting. They're adding a lot of charges because survival hunters, they've got a charge. Rogues are now potentially getting a charge. Interesting. I'm not sure. Do they keep Shadow Step? Because that would be pretty powerful. And it seems that Crimson Vial... It seems Crimson Vial is just going to be replacing Recuperate. Let's just have a look. I'm assuming it will, because you won't have both. Yeah. Okay. Acrobatic Strikes increase the range of all of your melee attacks by 3 yards. Interesting. Into the fray, increase your movement speed at all times by 15%. Okay, so that's kind of cool. I like how they've gone for a mobility tier, which doesn't necessarily need to have mobility options. So this, for example, this doesn't increase your mobility, but increases your range. That I'm a big fan of. I like the way they've done that, actually. No, I like that. There's a lot of flavour in it. You will have people who just pick what they prefer. So some people will prefer this because it means they can swap between ads a little bit quicker. You don't have to worry about, you know, people moving the boss slightly away. Tyrant is quite a good example when you get the 2 stacking groups when you get into the font phase. You know, you sometimes get that tank who shifts the boss a bit and then all the melee start raging because they're in the font group. You just take this for that fight, no problem. I really like that tier, actually. That's pretty good. Deep Stratagem hasn't changed. Hasn't changed. Okay. Iron Stomach. Increase the healing you receive from Crimson Vial, healing potions, and health stones by 30%. This is interesting. The reason why this is interesting is the fact that it's just basically increases all healing except for healing. Because it increases your Crimson Vial, which is your self-heal, potions, and health stones. So it's pretty thematic, which I like. I'm not sure if you would rather have the healing than mitigation. I think you would nearly always rather just have mitigation. But no, it's interesting. I kind of like it. Hasn't changed for obvious reasons. So I think they've kind of just gone for that as a sort of, oh, let's theme it around pirates. And pirates use potions. Or they drink, so they kind of get into that sort of whole aspect of it. Yeah, it's interesting. So it seems I was only right about these 2 rows being the same, which I really like. I really like the way they've done that. Parlay pacifies the target who is forced to negotiate instead of fighting for 1 minute. Only works on humanoids, demons, and dragonkin. Any damage caused will break the peace. Limit 1 target. So basically, is it like an incapacitate? Like, is that what it is? Is it just like, oh, you just got sacked? Or do they get like some, they start talking at you and bartering? I'm assuming it's basically just like incapacitate. But it's cool though, I like it. Enemies disabled with your kidney shot, cheap shot, gouge, zap, or blind take 10% increased damage from all sources. Hasn't really changed. Dirty tricks, gouge by no cost energy and no longer break. Okay, so that's kind of cool. So you've got the option of, do you want more reliable gouging? This is again basically just PvP tier. Slightly more damage, or do you want to gain a new CC? I kind of like that. That's a decent thing. That doesn't have a cooldown on it. Okay, I'm not sure how I feel about that one actually. I only just realized it doesn't have a cooldown, just as an energy cost. I don't know. We'd have to see how it works out in combat. Cannonball Barrage. 1 minute cooldown, 35-yard range. Command a ghost ship crew to barrage the target area with cannonballs. Very cool. Over 1.8 seconds and slowing enemies by 50% for 1.5 seconds. So basically it's a really cool move which doesn't really have anything to do with rogues, but it does have something to do with pirates. So it sort of makes sense and it's cool. Hopefully it's good. Again, this hasn't changed. Killing Spree. Teleport to an enemy within 10 yards, attacking 7 times. What blow free is active killing spree attack will teleport to damage. Okay, so it doesn't seem that it's changed as far as I'm aware. I'm kind of disappointed that you've got these two just cool moves. Like, people like killing spree, they like it a lot, they think it's cool. People are going to like this because that's just, you cool as shit. Hopefully there's an amazing animation. And then you get this, which is just like a good passive. Hopefully this doesn't math out to be better. I can imagine scenarios where in many cases this is the best. Hopefully that's not the case. And I do kind of like how you have an option between a high damage 1 minute move and a high damage 2 minute move. Basically, are there ads which spawn every 2 minutes? Then go for the big 2 minute move. Is there something which has to die in that particular time? Go for this. Do you just want the sustained damage option? Go for the sustained damage option. I like it. It's well spaced out. I just hope that this doesn't turn out to be the best talent. Roll the Bones, 100-yard range. I'm just instantly looking at that. 100 yards. Okay. Finishing move that rolls the dice of fate, providing a random combat enhancement, lasts longer per combo point. Sounds cool, also sounds frustrating. Do you want to be maintaining multiple buffs? Could you... So it says it gives you a random combat enhancement. Can you only have one roll the bones active at once, or could you have like 4 different buffs up? Like 4 different random effects, or is it just the one? Because that could be frustrating if you've got to maintain like 4 or 5. Don't know. It's thematic. I don't know if I like the ability though. Then Marked for Death, and then Death from Above. Okay, so mostly different. We've had, yeah, okay, so this row is basically the same, and this row, so you've only got 3. But if you look at the other classes, most of the other classes have like 4, sometimes even 5 rows, which are the same between all 3 specs. This one only has 1 row which hasn't changed, and then has 2 very similar rows with, you know, different thematic abilities. So, while not ideal, I like it. And I do like how they're really, you know, capturing that theming in. Maybe if they could do more sort of stuff around... Maybe if they made Iron Stomach also increase the healing from your Curse Blades, that might make that slightly better, but otherwise, seems good. Now, let's look at the weapons. So... a lot of people are going to like these. Personally, I'm quite a big fan. You've got these very cool rapier-style weapons, and it was only when I saw these that I realized how few, like, rapiers we have in-game. And, you know, it's very cool. Nice model. Then these, like, just crazy sort of pirate scimitar things. Again, they're just nice models. And then these, which kind of look a little bit more like a dagger to me. Now, again, not everything is fully data mined. I'm assuming we've got more than 3 options. There are more skins, but overall... looks promising. Alright, let's jump ahead. Subtlety. Now, this is going to be the one which is going to be the potential problem of the tier. Oh, not necessarily the tier, but of the 3. We always have issues with sub, so let's just see how it goes. Your attacks apply Withering Bite, dealing X shadow damage with a chance to trigger shadow techniques. Bites that trigger shadow techniques deal triple damage. So basically it applies a debuff, and then it just does crazy damage. Cool. Increase the damage of backstab by X, increase damage of Nightblade by X, increase the critical strike chance by X, increase damage dealt by your Shadow Strike by X, increase your chance of triggering Shadow Techniques by X, increase duration of Shadow Blades by X. Your openers have a chance to refund energy. Okay, so it took a while to get something interesting, but we got there in the end. We'd have to see how much energy, but that is potentially incredibly powerful. Your fleet-footed causes you to move additional X% faster. You're immune to full damage. That's just strong. Like, we've known for a while that you take less, but being straight out immune to full damage is just going to be kind of funny. You take math less damage. Again, everyone takes less damage, so kind of pointless. When you enter stealth, you gain a shield equal to 25% of your... Oh, God. Right, this is what I mean. The reason why I have an issue with sub is that you have this spec which is clearly designed to be the PvP spec, but they're also trying to make it like viable for PvE, so it then gets like damage buffs, then you compare it to the others, and then you end up with this incredibly, ridiculously overpowered spec for PvP. That seems really strong. Every time you stealth, you gain a shield. After sprinting for 3 seconds without taking damage, you vanish. That's going to be really annoying. It's very cool though, but it's going to be really annoying. Protects the target with a magical shield that absorbs X shadow damage. Lasts until cancelled. That seems powerful. When using an opener, a shadow clone appears and assists you in attacking targets. That's basically just copied that shadowy reflection, I believe it was called, which was an old talent, so that's cool. When shadowy clones expire or die, they explode, dealing X fire damage to the last target. That I really like. That is very cool. I do like that, I must admit. After using a finisher, your next finisher of that type is empowered by the fangs. Those are the 2 weapons. You're basically using the fangs of some demon beast. Potential for PvP to be kind of screwed up, but apparently some of these effects will be scaled down for PvP, which should be good. From a raiding and 5-man perspective, these seem amazing. For just world content, like some of this stuff, like when you sprint, you vanish, like that's just it seems cool. Seems cool. You're always going to have that thing where rogues are just a very cool class. They will always just be cool. Capturing the fancies the rogue does have the potential of going completely broken though, and that's what they need to really pay close attention to from the beta feedback. So, attacks made while stealthed and for 6 seconds after breaking stealth cause additional 10% damage. So it seems pretty good. The one real thing about this will you be able to realistically re-stealth every 6 seconds? Probably not. So this won't be a 100% buff, it's just like a good passive. Cool. Weapon Master. Your abilities have a 20% chance to hit the target twice each time they deal damage. That just seems a million times better than this, because that's up all of the time, and that's all abilities, stuff like ambush. Like, if you get like 1 or 2 big finishing moves to proc, then it'll probably outdo the 10% buff, which isn't even a 100% 10% buff. Gloomblade. 35 energy instant. Infuse your weapon with shadowy energies and stab the target, causing a lot of shadow damage. Awards 1 combo point, replaces backstab. Okay, so basically, do you want like a super powerful backstab, a crazy proc, or a passive? Not a massive fan of this row. Again, it's a cool row, it's a good row. I like the things in it. But going back to that sort of like beginner, intermediate, high level play, I don't really see the difference between these because, you know, using backstab in your rotation, okay, maybe that's intermediate play. That is a purely passive effect you have no control over, and this is basically a passive effect. You might be able to, like, there might be some skill in vanishing at the right time, but generally you just vanish for burst, so you just burst. They all seem basically quite low skill, if that makes sense. So you're not having that sort of like 3 tiers of difficulty. So I'm not a massive fan of that tier for that reason, because every other class we've looked at, that first row has been like a playstyle option. None of these seem like playstyle options to me. Night Stalker. While stealth, you move faster. Hasn't changed. Hasn't changed. Hasn't changed. Hasn't changed. Hasn't changed. Okay. Soothing Darkness. You heal 3% of your maximum life every 1 second while stealth is active. Again, it seems you basically get the option between do you want to heal, because all 3 specs had a healing option there. I like how they're all different. and then 2, just sort of you take less damage options. This is basically just like good for PvP, because in raiding you don't want to be sitting in stealth. It's also pretty good for like just leveling and world content, because just as you go from one mob to another, you're naturally healing up, so that's quite powerful. This is probably just going to be the, I say best, this one is going to be the most useful for people who are good at keeping it up. Cheat death is just obviously very helpful. So yeah, I like that tier, it's good. Strike from the Shadows. Shadow Strike also stuns your target for 2 seconds. Ugh. Shadow Strike is basically the new Shadow Step. I will show you it just here, which is a 40 energy instant, 30-yard range. Strike through the shadows, appearing behind your target, dealing 220% physical damage and awards 2 combat points. It's a Shadow Step, which does damage with no cooldown and a 30-yard range. Hopefully this is different, but for PvP, this is going to be ridiculous. Really powerful, and now it stuns. So, yeah. Don't know what they're thinking of that. Seems good, though. Enemies disabled with your Kidney Shot, Cheap Shot, Gouge, Slap, or Blind to 10% increase damage from all sources. Nightblade now decreases the target's movement speed by additional 20%. Okay, so, you know, that's one you could potentially actually use in a raiding encounter, because generally you can't see that much. Whereas if you can slow the ads, you might be able to slow the ads, so that will have some practical application for raiders. Maybe that one, but you generally can't hard CC ads, so yeah. That, I guess, is also, that would be amazing, actually, now I think about it, for something like Kilrog, when you have all the ads coming up, you can just instantly swap onto your ad, and lock it down. So that's actually really good in a raiding scenario, and also in 5-mans. Yeah, no, never mind. 2 good applications, one purely PvP / world leveling / 5-man standard. Again, another thing is, because we're going to be having bounties and adventure mode, world content is important. So if I say, oh, that tier seems like really good for like world content or this speed, that is important, because a lot of your time in Legion is going to be spent farming stuff in the world. So if you see something which has potential mobility or healing, you want to be looking for that, and you want to be having that sort of like world questing spec in the back of your head. Cheap Shot and Shadow Strike generate 1 additional combo point. It's just good. Hasn't changed. Your combo point generators now also have a chance to trigger shadow techniques. That was that debuff we saw. Again, I like how you're sort of having stuff, you know, weave in between both the artifacts and the talents. We want more of that. That's good, Blizzard. Seems a little bit of a boring tier. Like, they're all powerful effects, but they're all passive effects. It's kind of nice. Like, if you compare this row to, for example, the Outlaw or Combat row, where you had, you know, Killing Spree passive and you summon a ghost ship, that's a lot cooler than this, yeah? So, good abilities. Would have liked something a little more interesting. Relentless Strikes. You gain an additional 40 energy when you enter stealth. Just makes your opener better. Seems pretty good. Mark for Death, powerful. Death from Above, powerful. Now, is that your energy bar is 40 like larger, like you could go from 100 energy to 140 energy, or is that a, when you enter stealth you just gain 40 energy? Does that make sense? Like, you regenerate 40 energy. That is quite a big point. I'm assuming because they say gain, it increases your energy bar. I think the other 2 are probably better, and then in PvP you might want that one because it lets you, you know, have a stronger opener. So yeah, I don't know. I would say that Sub has probably been my least favourite tree, just because it has the least interesting moves in it, from my opinion. The first row was quite disappointing. This row, again, like, all of the healing options, okay, cool, whatever. But, you know, this row, that's very powerful. Yeah, I think Sub probably has the least interesting of the trees, but saying that, it's going to be ridiculously powerful, so I wouldn't really take too much attention to that. Now, let's look at the weapons. Before we go at that, I'm going to say I hate these weapons. I think they look really bland, and I feel like I've seen most of these models before. So hopefully some of the later ones will impress me. But going into it, I mean, it's a bone dagger. I mean, does anyone, out of interest, if you like these models, leave a comment, but I mean, this one's kind of cool-ish, but I feel like we're just sort of going back to old school like Wrath BC models, and not in a good way. It's just something, again, this is like a low res in game with animations that look better, but they always sort of just look kind of derpy to me. It's okay, it's sort of like a Shah infused almost. We're getting there with this one, like that's quite a cool weapon. Again, they're limited because they're themed around, they're meant to be the fangs of this demon, so they're gonna look like fangs or bones. So they can't go too crazy with it. Like even this one, they've like put a blade into it, which is kind of cool. But some of these color variants of this last one and these last two are a bit better. But as far as daggers go, they're not like crazy winning me over. But yeah, so there we go. That's that. I'm Tarke Cat. Thanks for watching. Hopefully that was helpful to some of the rogues out there. And the next one of these will be up tomorrow. Bye-bye. Have a good day.